he's not running away from it to go help. He's making sure that they have help. He's putting himself in a good spot. I mean, that's the kind of thing where for a guy who's coming in that hasn't played and you're rotating him right away, those are good things to see.
All right. At the request of many of you, I dug into Zach Thomas, not the linebacker, but the offensive lineman for the Texans. He is named a tackle and he looks like a tackle, but he has 21 snaps at guard in his career. They were all against the Jets in a blowout loss in the fourth quarter. So take all of this with a grain of salt. But I've got my old teammate and friend, Drew Hodgdon, played in the NFL, played at Arizona State. Arizona State.
Yeah,
And now
crucial.
coaches high school football. So he's run the whole gamut. Quick impressions of Zach Thomas based on an extremely limited sample size in one quarter of football.
One quarter of football.
At guard. You have to tell me now. Yeah. Is he better than Kenyon Green?
in the very limited sample size, yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, obviously, it's tough because that was an awkward time that they were actually playing that game. But he's doing things that to me Kenyon Green was not really doing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has clean footwork, he has good technique, and more than anything, I mean, he seems to play pretty smart. I mean, he's doing stuff where when you see what the defense is doing on the fly, his instincts and to respond to what he thinks is coming or what actually is happening in front of him are good. So okay. I think that small sample size, I think that's good. I think
right. Well, no, that was my impression of it too. Is like that was the first note I had was okay. He seems generally aware. All right, so let's dive in. You gave me 4 positive plays and 4 plays that maybe weren't so positive. So I'll run through this first one, and then you can tell me what you saw. Left guard Zach Thomas.
Yeah, I think this is what you see. A lot of the teams right now that are leading the league that have great O lines. You see them crushing these blocks with a lot of certainty and authority. That's not something the Texans have been doing real well this year, but that's just a combo block that you see on the call side that he has, the play side with the tackle, and they're just working up to the linebacker. His footwork is good. It's really good and clean. It's not like he's destroying this guy, right? But you don't need to. You really don't need to at this level. You just got to be square enough, and he sees that when the linebacker goes over the top and the tackle's able to come off, he gets back inside and maintains control.
Yeah, he works his hips back in there, huh?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really notice that the first time because he's a little bit off balance there, but part of that's because of the down block by the tackle. But then he just
well, it's also you see the linebacker stepping up, right? Yeah, so he's having to treat it like he's going to have to be in position, but he doesn't slide all the way off. Which, to be honest, a lot of the combos that the Texans have had when they look rough are one of the combo guys overcommitting, and then the linebacker just comes totally free. And so that he's not doing that here. I think that's good.
Okay, next play on the positives.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, you're good. Yeah, same thing here. I mean, this is what you can tell is he's having to set. He knows he has help inside. He's having to set a wide rusher, but he's not getting crazy with it. He's ensuring that it's taken care of and then not jumping outside with his eyes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he knows that it's going to be a double team. I don't love that he's backing up quite so much, but I mean, that's kind of that's like a feel thing.
Yeah.
He gets in trouble with that sometimes. He might have gotten tripped up, but either way, he's not running away from it to go help. He's making sure that they have help. He's putting himself in a good spot. I mean, that's the kind of thing where for a guy who's coming in that hasn't played and you're rotating him right away, those are good things to see.
Yeah, especially who knows how much he practiced at guard with the Patriots, but
right.
Okay. Picking up a game, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of games. In this cut up.
So this is where the picking up the games to me as a defensive tackle, I was always just amazed that a game ever worked. But then when I've started to watch it more from offensive lineman perspective, I totally get why it works.
Right. Yeah, it's fear of losing your job and looking like a complete debacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of these things where I thought this guy actually did a pretty good job. You probably know who it is that was rushing over him most of the time, those two guys. But, he's baiting him, of course. And so he's also at risk of a potential game on the outside.
Yeah, 94 is baiting him, trying to get him to go up, and this is so there's a coaching tip for the young defensive linemen. So if you look at 94, you want to make it look like you're actually rushing that gap. You don't want to just stand up and wait for the other guy to come through. And God forbid, don't look at him because then you're going to get his kidneys crushed.
That's right. Yeah.
So the defensive tackle does a good job of trying to bait him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
and
gives.
that, I mean, any coach is going to say over and over again, and anybody who even played at the high school level, they tell you that you got to take care of the penetrator,
Yeah,
right? That's how. So the harder job, really, and who needs to do probably a cleaner job here on a couple of these plays, is the center, who isn't really that flat with him, but he's still able to come back because he turns his hips and gets back. He doesn't know that it's not also an ET. So the guard there is having it set to make sure that he's accounting for either game.
yeah, that's true. Because you look at the end. So yeah, this you get into the world of an offensive lineman. The guard's got to be worried about the penetrator 96, but also number 91 kind of gave a look like he was going to come inside on an ET. So you're so it's almost like two gapping, but as a guard instead of a
That's
nose
right.
tackle.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think he does actually a pretty good job coming back and getting inside and staying flat on the guy that was the nose and the penetrator. So that's,
Okay. Oh,
it's stuff
jeez.
that to me is relative to what the Texans kind of has struggled with a little bit, but he's doing okay.
Let's just watch and appreciate this hit on the quarterback. Boom.
I mean, you gotta eject that guy out of the game, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you gotta. He's obviously the most evil person who
yeah,
ever played the game of
yeah.
football.
I think you have to.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. A little these damn sim blitzes. Okay, so
Yeah,
something we've definitely seen the Texans struggle with at times when they load up and drop out everybody on one side and bring somebody back across the formation.
that's right. Yeah, that's why I wanted this one on here specifically, is because it's something that they've gotten beat clean on a few
Mm-hmm.
times, right? And it's a little bit of a different look than some of the ones that the Texans saw earlier in the season, but that's good awareness by the
Yeah,
guard, which the
that's
guards haven't
it's
always shown. I mean, that's good, clean awareness. He sees it. He actually picks it up faster. In a perfect world, he recognizes it a little faster because that guy doesn't really look like he's coming to me.
yeah.
But still, the
Yeah,
second drop,
he's keeping his feet lateral. He's shuffling. The defensive lineman's
right.
shuffling more so than just crossover stepping or anything.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. But he's staying square, and he's doing a good job of knowing where he's supposed to be, right? Which is really like 90% of what you have to do.
Oh, another ugly hit on the
Yeah,
quarterback.
he got he got he got
But
harassed.
not Zach Thomas's fault, damn it.
No, it would never be. It's our guy.
All right, so now we've got 4 plays, the opportunity areas, right? That's what you as a positive
Yeah,
high school coach would call it? Yeah.
yeah. I'd probably say it's an area that you kind of wonder maybe what's going on with the scheme, but either way, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, this
Mhm.
isn't great. Yeah,
This is one that he gets the job done, but the body positioning and
yeah,
you're
not
looking out over
ideal.
his skis there.
That's right. I mean, he's lunging, right? He's not bringing his feet. He doesn't have his head up in a way. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's trying to give good heat. I mean, to me, that makes me wonder, how powerful a guy is he really naturally? I mean, is he
Okay,
a
that was one
smaller
of my
guy?
notes too. That's exactly what I was wondering is, and I think one of the plays on here you probably labeled the same way I did. Um, either because of poor body positioning, or just maybe just a lack of natural strength. He doesn't look like a strong player.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, you usually do this because you're trying to compensate for something, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
could
like
be what it
driving
is.
a really
Yeah.
expensive car.
But I mean, he finishes. He gets him out of the way, gets the job
Yeah.
done. It's okay. Yeah, and there's another one, right? And this is kind of going back to what's interesting, and Seth can appreciate this as a degenerate former defensive lineman, is that they do this stuff early in the games to screw you up later half the time,
Yeah.
right? And so here they kind of get them on this. And I'm not totally sure on the order, but either way, they're trying to set these things up, right? And so
Hmm.
here, I mean, it's not that hard to get beat on these, to be honest. I mean, I'm always going to defend the line in general for obvious reasons, but I mean, look at how far back his left foot is there. His outside foot
Okay.
is so deep. He really has no chance of shutting the door on that
Yeah,
game.
he opens it up right there.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
opens
Where
it
those
up.
other plays, he did a good job of staying square. Here, he's closed it off. His options. It's like when in basketball, right? When somebody gets you to turn right, and
Yeah,
yeah,
you're toast. I mean, it's
yeah.
already over because this guy got him a few times on that inside stab. So he's soft on the outside with the bull rush. So he has no chance to really shut this down. I mean, it's not the worst thing you've ever seen because they're going into the slide, right?
Right.
So the center should be there just in case anyway. But it's not. It's
And
not
it's
over.
yeah, and there's also like as far as that guy getting the hit on the QB, that it also involves all right the clutter from that other penetrator, but he
That's
could have
right.
been in a better position to handle it.
Yeah, it's not all on
Great the
him. I mean,
process, not the results.
well, that's the thing. I mean, with everybody else, if they're really clean, then that stuff really, honestly, isn't a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, the pull. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one I wanted if I were just really in Zach Thomas's corner, I would say, all right, but he's a guard. He's playing guard where he's actually a tackle, the timing, everything else, but like tackles pull too. Mm.
Yeah. Again, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I kind of put this in this, you know, this is hardly anything worse than what we've seen all year already in Houston, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the thing about even as I feel like
yeah,
they've improved on some of the gap scheme stuff, and when the guards pull, whether it's power or gap or anything else like that, they've improved, but it's more like they're getting in front of guys, but you don't see them just blowing up and burying people.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. And you don't need to, honestly, with, how well Mixon, I think, reads most of the time and how good he is. But, they'll tell you over and over again, you want to be inside out on this guy on the edge.
You're inside out, right? You
Yeah,
want him to air to the because that guy's trying to wrong arm you and blow it
that's
up, and
right.
you open the door to exactly what he wants to do. I
Yeah.
almost okay. If I were gonna make excuse for him, I'd say a lot of times Zach Thomas would, or a few times he would report as the eligible sixth offensive lineman,
Okay.
and this would be perfect if he were a tight end trying to make it look like a kick out.
Right.
Then boom,
Yeah.
off on your route, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
But it's
right.
not a
Yeah.
boot, yeah.
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 Yeah. Got him again. That's sad. But it's not, I mean, you know,
Well,
we've
you
seen
know
a
what?
lot
Okay,
worse,
so this is
right?
what I always want out of guards. If you don't have perfect guard play, don't get beat fast. Like
Right.
at the very least, be a speed bump.
That's right. Keep it alive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's why most guys. I mean, that's an indicator that he's saying, look, you're gonna have to beat me with this power move. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you just swing past me or dart inside, right? And so, again, it's not the worst, but there are 3 or 4 plays where he's getting driven back with kind of that stab.
I'll tell you what, man. I just honestly, even looking at these guys who are just a hodgepodge of journeymen and backups and rookies for the Patriots,
Yeah,
I feel like there's more evidence of good coaching
there is.
just in watching these. Does
Yeah.
that sound fair?
No, I think that's completely valid. I mean, there've been enough games. We're plenty deep enough in the season to kind of see the product that's out there, right?
I
With
wonder.
enough of those guys doing it.
So okay, this is the other big one thing I was wondering about. I feel like the miscommunications from earlier in the season have gotten better. We haven't seen so many examples of. You remember the Green Bay game where
Yeah,
you could tell that the tackle and the running back were both blocking an inside guy while the edge
right.
rusher ran free. Like where the team's best pass rusher ran free, there was clearly a miscommunication.
Yep.
And it seems like since Jarrett Patterson started playing center, maybe it's a combination of simplifying some of the protections, but also maybe Jarrett Patterson being better at the communication. As a
Yeah.
guard or as a tackle, is there? Can I make a partial excuse for Kenyon Green that even when he was getting beat one on one, the uncertainty perhaps of the calls by the center, or perhaps some of the miscommunications just made for a worse overall product in general.
100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that, the offensive line play, it's that unit is so subject to all those little wrinkles, all those little variables, and then they have such an outsized effect when you get
Yeah,
into those games. And so if you could go back in time, it's the same reason why when you look at last year, how on paper they certainly shouldn't have been better, but they were better. Because all those little things make a huge difference. I think that Patterson absolutely has been better for the group. There's no doubt. I mean, you can't argue that. I mean, they've had a little bit of a decline maybe in some of the fronts they've been going against versus prior. So if you want to attribute it to that, but even just the flow of the operation has
yeah,
looked a little cleaner, a little better. There's no doubt though that the glaring issue, no one's crushing it to me. Nobody
yeah,
on the whole front. Nobody looks like they're doing fantastic. I don't really care what PFS rate is for Tunsil and Block. Like no one looks phenomenal,
yeah,
but you can imagine that in a different scenario where if they were clean at center from the beginning, everyone was a little more dialed into where they were supposed to be and consistently. I mean, you can tell left guard, a lot of those games that just look like a complete disaster. I'm thinking maybe it was the Detroit game or whatever it was
Yeah.
after that, for sure Green Bay, right? Where when they're giving up those kinds of hits or getting beat fast and clean, like you have the tools to get the job done when you're a starter in the NFL. Doesn't whether you were drafted late or whatever, you have the tools. There's something going on there where you're not confident, you're a little rattled mentally. Like that's something different. And so like you can come back from that, and that's why year to year you see big swings from lines that were horrendous the year before, and then suddenly they're serviceable. They're okay.
Because they're all playing, they're all in
Yeah.
lockstep, and they're using the proper form technique and
Right.
everything. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the that's what I really worry about is I feel like they've made some progress, but when they go up against Detroit or the Titans defensive line, when they go up against full grown men,
Yeah.
it's just not enough. They're not getting any movement. They're like Laramie is a really good pass protector, but man, he does not move people. Like he
No.
gets that Tennessee game, he was getting just stuffed.
No, which is why it really is the units that I've just been so impressed by, especially this year, that generally though are consistent from year to year and that are always serviceable. They understand that if you have a guy like Tunsil, he's not necessarily going to be a mauler on some of these combos or the gap scheme work you're doing. So they adjust the scheme to make sure that it complements them. But they also have a guard who can do that part of it.
Yeah,
And when they don't have a guard that can do that part of the heavy lifting that Tunsil isn't as good at, and he's kind of doing, let's be real. I mean, it's frustrating to see some of the effort stuff, but he is doing the harder part right.
right,
I mean, he
right.
is,
Right,
right?
yeah, the money, the part that gets you paid.
That's right.
I
That's right.
always wonder with
Yeah,
Laramie, though. I mean, part of it is, uh, he's not a big guy by offensive tackle standards.
right.
He's more of a svelte guy. But
Yeah,
so is Dwayne Brown.
yeah,
Dwayne wasn't a huge dude, and he actually lost weight, kind of over the course of his career, and he was able to manage it a lot better.
yeah. Powerful though. I mean,
Yeah.
Dwayne was a pretty powerful guy. I
Yeah,
mean,
and he wasn't. I'm just thinking about like just personal. I have a hard time judging offensive linemen anymore because they all seem giant to me.
huge.
Uh, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I feel like a spec when I'm out on the field, like during
Uh,
training camp. I feel like I never played football at all.
oh,
I'm looking at
yeah.
the offensive lines, and I'm like, what the hell? What the? just
Unbelievable. I mean, I'm
get out
seeing
there
like
with
the
my
five
bony
chip
ass
guys,
against these
or
guys.
yeah, coming out of high school, and they're like, oh, he's only 6'6", 340. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's like, but it's bonkers. But Dwayne was not a huge guy. I mean, he was like
Yeah.
6'4", I think, right? He was like 6'4", like 310
Yeah,
or
he wasn't tall. You're
something.
right. He
Yeah,
wasn't tall.
yeah.
He wasn't nearly like a lot of those guys. What okay, so what's the name of your high school up in Austin that you and Sage Rosenfels are
St.
coaching?
Andrews.
St.
St.
Andrews.
Andrews.
And you guys
Yeah.
finished what this year?
We finished 3-7, I
Yeah.
think.
But it's a new
Yeah.
program, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we moved up in a different conference. We're now in the same SBC, which is the same conference that Owen Daniels coaches in.
Oh,
So
really?
he's coaching at Kincaid, and this year we didn't end up playing Kincaid, and they did great. Better than 3-8, I guess, if you want to call it great. But no, and that's a legitimate program. I mean, we're building our way up. But yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, we moved up to a tougher conference, and we have it's like we have like 25 kids half the
You
time.
guys you installed a Coop Shanastani program
We
for
did.
your offense. Yeah. Now
Yeah, we did.
the offense did pretty well.
Yeah. Offense, it was the most amount of points per game they've ever had. First time they've ever had 1,000-yard passer, and we had two of those. Had 1,000-yard
2,000-yard
rusher.
passers. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. And one of them was a freshman, the other one was a sophomore.
So you're running a Coop Shanastani system. For those of you who don't know, that's a Kubiak Shanahan system. And like you're going against defenses that see a whole lot of just nothing but gun, right?
Oh yeah,
Is-
all gun, all RPO. That's the system now for
So
most
some of these
high school.
defenses, though, when they see what you guys are running, is it just like they've seen
Oh yeah,
a
no,
scary exotic animal for the first time?
that's what's so funny about it. It's just to you and me, and really at any other level, that's not what it is. I mean, I always look at it like this is so basic. And
Yeah.
it is
Oh,
in a lot
really?
of ways, other than like what you do in the passing game for the most part. But yeah, they look at it. No one runs naked like that. No one runs play action and does it in the same way that we do because everyone's always in gun and it doesn't
Yeah.
look the same. So linebackers
It's
don't know how to flow. They
oh,
don't
the
know how to
timing for a
read.
linebacker just having to when I get people always ask like, okay, well, what's the big deal? What's the difference with the QB under center? It's because Joe Mixon is running full speed
Right.
at the point where you're trying to figure out whether it's run or pass. And you
Right.
know that if you're wrong, Joe Mixon's going to truck you. And it's just
Yeah.
different than when you can
Yeah.
watch it unfold with the guys getting going. You can see when the running back has the ball, that's when he starts going versus just
Right.
taking the handoff at full speed.
Well, and you have the ability to take advantage. I mean, that's why it's still so prolific in the NFL, is
Yeah.
because, I mean, one of those great stats that, I mean, of course, I'm fully bought into to really everything that Shanahan does. But, for the most part, it's that they were showing a stat earlier in the year where he had more touchdowns from undrafted free agents since he took over in San Francisco than any other team. And it was by like double.
Yeah.
So you get production out of guys that otherwise you wouldn't think you'd be able to get that kind of quality production out of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of it. You have guys go down and you can replace them without necessarily throwing your season, down
What
the
about did the kids adapt to it pretty well, or was there a growing pains?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was the first year going into it. It was coupled with playing way, way better teams, better competition. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like we didn't do them a lot of favors from that standpoint. But I've been trying to work up to it over the last couple of years since I've been working with them. And yeah, it's the simplest system. Um, I think the best way that I try to tell guys is that it's the easiest system on paper to take years to learn how to do
Yeah.
because it's all finesse. It's all
Mhm.
execution. What you see on paper and what you see on the whiteboard looks so simple and so easy. And the reason why not everybody can execute like a handful of the coaches, like Kyle and some of those other guys are in San Francisco, is because everything is in how you do it.
Mhm.
It's not everyone knows how to do so. Oh, every single team has an outside zone scheme. Every single team
Yeah.
has naked boot play action. It's every little detail in how they do it, where the tight end is fitting up, where the tight
Yeah.
end, how the timing on how he leaks out. I mean, Sage will talk about how the tight ends on those nakeds, they try to come all the way down to the center
Mhm.
and then they leak out late, and that's how they do it. And that's every other, other guys that I even coach with now. They're like, oh no, the tight end just take 2 steps and then you go out in the flat.
Yeah.
And no, that's not. You do it. That's how you get the safety to come all the way down and then do it right. And
That's where,
so
yeah, it gets frustrating sometimes when the whiteboard warriors like, yes, that's how it looks that's how it looks, but you got to get into the psychology of why it works and like
right,
what the defense is thinking. That's why it's been so damn frustrating that like I feel like D'Amico knows
yeah,
all. D'Amico, he was raised by Kubiak. He played, he was going against those San Francisco offenses all the time, and I I don't want to obviously D'Amico's still very much in the honeymoon phase here, but like at some point, man, all right, if it's not getting done with Bobby Slowick, you know what it's
right,
supposed to look like.
right,
It's the job of the head coach is to get that look out of the Texans offense, and we're just not seeing
totally.
it yet.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. Do you feel like as a former player and someone who played with D'Amico, right, who
Yeah.
knows him as a person for the most part, is that he's such a charismatic, likable, awesome person. And so you're seeing it and you're thinking, God, yeah, if I were a player, I'd want that. I want that guy.
No, yeah.
Like, I would
Yeah.
love to have that guy as a coach and to be around him and all those things. And then just as a completely objective person on the outside, you're being a little cynical. You're looking at it like, yeah,
He's
you
too
gotta,
nice, right? That's what started to bubble up.
maybe a little, yeah,
Yeah, and what I always say is because people will say that, and I get it, I get that sentiment. Um, I think the biggest thing is that if you talk to the players themselves about what it's like to be coached by D'Amico, like the defensive players, it, it's hard, because
I
he
bet,
demands a
yeah,
lot, and it's not because he's yelling or screaming or anything. It's like he's got high expectations, and you better meet those expectations.
right,
And I don't worry about it on that side. I guess with D'Amico, the only thing I would worry about is like at some point and to become a true NFL head coach, at some point, you have to be a different type of human being. They're weird, man. They're weird. And I think part of it is at some point, you're going to have to fire a friend or two. Like
right,
you have to kind of detach from the way normal people
Yeah.
operate. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe if there's a miracle turnaround here in the last 4 games, then we can have a completely different conversation.
It felt a little bit like that, right? Don't you remember maybe when Kubiak first got there in Houston?
Yeah.
I remember kind of feeling that it was a little bit like that, where he was such a grounded, likable guy. I mean, I had it
Like almost too well adjusted to be an NFL head coach.
right. Like I kind of felt like your fatal flaw is that you're not a psychopath.
You look
Um,
like you might have work-life balance, and I
yeah,
distrust
no, you
that.
can't do
Yeah.
that. That's gonna go out the window. Yeah, but if you're defending Slovak, I think the way that you can wrap your mind around it, if you were to go down that road, is just that the scheme might be doing what it's doing because he does recognize the limitations
Mhm.
on by the line, right? And so he's
Yeah.
trying to compensate for it by probably doing more with some of the tight end work and trying to incorporate more 12 personnel maybe than I would have
Some of the
expected. Or
gadget plays that
some
worked
of
in
that
the
stuff
first
he might be
half.
doing that, yeah,
Yeah.
whether for better or worse, right? But doing it because he's very aware of the limitations that he sees that's going on for whatever reason. You can go into like, well, then you should have seen that earlier or whatever. It's like who knows? It's all
Yeah.
complicated, right? But that could be part of what it is. You have to give him credit, I think, for that. I think we have to acknowledge that he's smart enough to know what he's looking at. Just like
Yeah, and that's where I wonder though too. Sometimes you go down a road where, like as you said earlier, it's a very simple scheme in some ways, and the bread and butter is being able to run. You got to be able to run the staple plays really, really well.
right.
And now when I start to see any kind of a gadget play, in my mind, I'm like, that's 10 minutes they could have spent on outside zone in practice. Like however
Yeah.
much time or energy is devoted to getting that play set up. It's like going into a math test and realizing, oh, I wish I knew my multiplication table better. Like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're in the test. So
Yeah.
like you're 2/3 of the way through the season, you're realizing, oh, I really should have learned my multiplication table better, but I don't have time for that right now. So what do I do?
I
You
totally agree.
you
I,
pull a
I
fire
agree.
alarm is what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You either or start an actual fire,
Yeah.
because
So
that's what you gotta
whatever.
do. Like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna?
Punch a
I need an out.
classmate.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're totally right. They're gonna have to work on the fundamentals and kind of get to the core of the offense for it to click. Because
So
Mixon's been doing everything he can. Man, that guy's unbelievable.
oh yeah, no, that's one of the hard things too is you look at it on paper and you see, oh, Mixon has all these games with over 100 yards rushing. You go
Yeah,
back and watch those games, and you come away from these games where Mixon has 140 yards rushing, and you're like, yeah, but they didn't run the ball that well, like because
right.
they got stuffed on first down too many times, they got stuffed on second down too many times. It's
Totally.
just
You'll take a guy who had 60 yards but it consistently looked clean, and it
yeah,
was done in a way to sell the secondary and the linebackers and everybody else in the box that it looks like something, so they
mhm,
can actually get the play action going. Versus Mixon, who's like 2 yard loss and then making an unbelievable play for a 35-yard run, and then
yeah.
another 1 yard loss, and then having it because the defense isn't. They're not falling for that. They're not going to buy into that, right?
I'm glad I had you on because, for one, it's good to see you. You've lost a lot of weight. You got a nice metro, like a zaddy beard, and your hair is on point. That's very
Yeah,
good. You're one of those offensive linemen that you're like, what the hell? That guy was an offensive lineman. Just
amazing. I'll
it's a
take it.
Rico Suave offensive lineman right
This
there.
is why I do it. This is
This
why I do it.
for
Why do it?
this
I'm
feedback.
yeah. Feed me.
You know what?
This is
Women
why I
come
do
and
it.
go, but impressing your male middle-aged friends,
Oh
that's
yeah,
priceless.
yeah. Days of trying to impress women are probably behind me now. Now I'm just all about that confidence boost I get from trying to make my male friends impressed.
And then okay, so St. Andrews versus Kincaid next year. It's the Drew Hodgson and Sage Rosenfels versus Owen Daniels battle.
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
Is that gonna be in Houston or up in Austin?
probably because we're terrible. So I would think that that's
You've
what
not
I've
getting
learned is
paid.
that that's
Are
how
you
the
not getting
scheduling
paid
works.
to go?
That's how the scheduling works, Beth, is that you just will go where the team is better, and that's kind of how that works. And it'll be
You'll
interesting.
work your way up there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
trying to. We'll see.
I feel, you know what? I was very skeptical just because you know how it is. People get so excited. They just want something different. All right, anybody but Kenyon Green, whatever. So my knee jerk reaction is like, all right, I don't know. And I'm watching Zach Thomas and I saw the positives that you did, but in my mind, there's a part that, all right, but you also know Kenyon Green's traits that made him a first rounder. You
Right.
can see that Zach Thomas doesn't have those same physical traits, and yet as you said, it's not about that with offensive line. There's plenty
Right.
of bad athlete offensive linemen who are really good offensive linemen because they do all that other stuff well. So would you say
Right.
right now, should I should I be should I want them to start Zach Thomas, but be okay with Kenyon Green starting if he plays this week? So you don't. Kenyon Green's coming back from IR. Zach Thomas, has been on the team since November, late November. But Kenyon Green's coming back from a separated shoulder. He spent 4 weeks on IR.
Yeah, I think based on the 20 snaps that I watched of one
21.
game, 21, I
Yeah.
apologize, that I watched of him play against the Jets in what ultimately was a blowout, out of position. I mean, I would have no reason not to play Thomas instead.
Just
I
throw
don't
him in
know.
there. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't
Good.
know why. I mean, what are we doing? Like you've
Yeah.
already
Yeah. What?
seen. I don't even honestly. It's like, if you're seeing a lot in practice and they're working with him, and of course they have. So if they don't, then my assumption is that they see a lot of things that are problematic with
Yeah.
Thomas's play, or at least concerning to the point that he needs more time,
Yeah.
right? And so, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But if you can just take a wild guess based on what we saw, and that represents like a full picture of Thomas's game and everything else, like there's no reason why I would do that. Over, you can take any 20 snaps that Green probably played. I mean, I'm a horrible person this session we're doing, but I just
No. Hey, that's what. Hey, you're in sports talk, baby.
yeah, man,
Be the
yeah,
worst
just
version of
light people on
yourself.
fire. It's all about lighting people on fire. Yeah, no, I mean, if I took any 20 snaps, I bet over the course of any game that Green played, I have a feeling that they would grade out lower than the 20 that we just took.
Oh,
Right.
nice. All
So,
right.
uh,
All right, man. Oh, I'm really glad I had you on, man. I'm gonna let you go because you've got a real business to
yeah,
run. What's
yeah.
the name of
For
your
sure.
furniture company?
Well, the furniture company we bought is called Clay Furniture.
Uh-huh.
It's a commercial furniture and installation company. The M&A group that my partner and I run that bought it late last year is called Cambium Partners.
Okay.
So we bought them, and we're scaling right now that company, and then we're working on our third acquisition.
What could people in Houston who are watching this, how could they use you? How could they?
If they, yeah, thanks. I'll take this.
Yeah.
This is actually the first time I've ever done a plug like this with that company.
Plug it, baby.
Yeah, if you do any commercial millwork needs, any kind of commercial millwork, so that's anything that gets installed in that way. So we do a lot of healthcare hospital systems. We do a lot of hotels, and anything like that on the commercial side. We're here for
Dude, I had this image in my mind that you had bought some small New England furniture company, like a mom and pop, like they do custom or whatever or something. I didn't realize it was as big as what you just described.
you.
Jeez,
Yeah, I mean,
gotta get my life in gear, man.
small trying to get bigger. Yeah, I mean, we just started doing work for, if you want to get real deep in the capital side, we do a lot of Bain Capital's offices.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, we just did one in Austin. We're doing one in LA. Did one in
That's one of
Seattle.
the most
So.
common texts I get during the radio show is, Seth, I need somebody to do millwork for my hedge
Yeah,
fund.
yeah.
Like, what the hell are you even here
I
for if
knew
you're not
this
helping
was
direct
what a
me to
missed
my hedge
opportunity.
fund furniture?
Right, Seth. I've been trying to open up another Bain Capital office for a giant hedge fund, and we need more millwork. Like, who do I go to? Is there possibly someone you used to play with that owns a spot that would do that? We're crushing it right now. Yeah,
That's where we
that makes
go.
sense.
Okay. Awesome, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah. Likewise.